Attillio, welcome. I'm glad you took the opportunity to join me on this journey so we can explore
Well, thank you very
individuals,
much.
individual stories, insights, experiences that I can share for others to know and understand exactly what takes place in the auto industry, right? And my mission is to bring about the awareness of the individuals who work behind the scenes, who make it possible for families to be safe, right? Logistically, where you have a lot of truckers, drivers who do deliveries. You have Uber drivers now who make it convenient to even deliver food, right? To
Yeah.
needy people, especially now in this time of the COVID. A lot of people now rely on Ubers and Lyft and the gig economy who rely on their motor vehicle. Their motor vehicle right now is the main asset that keeps food on the table, right? But at the same time now, we have to pay homage to individuals like yourself who work behind the scenes diligently and have the wealth of knowledge to know exactly what needs to be done, to make everyone feel safe, right? So this is like a thank you scenario for individuals such as yourself. I know it may be a little bit overreaching, but at the same time, no, this is some way of paying back the respects for certain individuals. But I tell you, enough of the rambling about me. Let us get into the story. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, let's see. I started my apprenticeship at a dealer. It was called York Toyota. That was back in October of 1992.
Okay.
And it took me about a year to get registered as an apprentice. I mean, I
Okay.
always knew I was going to go into cars. I loved cars. And since, grade 9 automotive class, I took automotive every year, basically, that I could.
Mhm.
I always loved cars.
Yeah.
So I knew it was, pretty much early on, I was going to be a mechanic or something along with automotive.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so in the first year, after I got registered, I did a Toyota MAP program, which was 38 weeks of straight school. It was the second year Toyota had offered it. So you went to Centennial College, you had dedicated Toyota trained teachers, but really being their second year, they didn't really have Toyota knowledge. They were teachers who had been at Centennial College for years.
Right.
They were
Right.
a branded Toyota teacher. So,
Yeah.
but we had a lot of Toyota books, and this was geared towards just technicians who were working at Toyota dealers. Apprentices, not technicians. Apprentices were at Toyota dealers.
Yeah.
And we'll give them more Toyota experience than the general domestics that they had to learn off of. So we had donated Camry and a donated Corolla to work on. And personally, for me, I wasn't a big Toyota guy, but after years of working at Toyota, I was there till it changed. I think 95 became Dave Nichols Toyota.
Okay.
So
Okay.
someone bought out York Toyota,
Mhm.
new owner came in, and he changed everything up.
Yeah.
And Dave Nichols Toyota, I left 99 to go to Woodbridge Toyota, which was a lot closer to where I lived.
Okay.
So living with my parents, 25 now. At the time, 25 at the time.
Yeah.
And, being close to my parents was a lot better.
Yes.
I can go to work and come home for lunch.
Mhm.
It was great. So, but it was actually took me a while to become an apprentice. I tried for about 6 months after I finished high school to get an apprentice. They just weren't hiring apprentices. And I started at a garage for 3 days, and then he said, I have no work. So I gotta let you go.
Yeah.
I worked in the shop for 3 days. I didn't really do anything. And then he says, I gotta let you go.
Yeah.
So it was a tough time to get into that trade. And then especially to sign up, people didn't want apprentices. They wanted licensed guys.
Yes, yes. Because I remember back then before 1995, A motor car was well, I wouldn't say a scarce commodity, but if you compare then to now, it's really wasn't as much. So they didn't have time to use, the little guy to come in to train them on all these things. They just wanted persons to come in, fix a car, the car goes, because at that time you didn't have much cars coming in order for the amount of work to be shared amongst the amount of individuals that were there.
Well, and also the fact that you're working on an import. There wasn't many Toyotas, there wasn't many Hondas. It was all the big three.
Yes.
You had a lot of Ford, and you had people who were, lifelong Ford, lifetime Chevrolet, lifetime Dodge people.
Yes, yes. So, because back then the car would stay in the family for like generations. It handed down from the grandfather to the son, and then and then the son and the father will hand it down to his son. So it's three generation of cars.
Yeah, and your 1989 Corolla would run out in less than 5 years, and you'd be getting another Corolla.
Yes, yes.
They lasted mechanically, but the bodies were still pretty bad.
Yeah,
a lot of rusting issues back then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I stayed with Toyota. My whole career was with Toyota. I went to Woodbridge, and when I went there, I was able to become a pro technician through training at, going to the head office. And from there, 2003, I ended up buying my first house, getting married, and starting at another dealership in Mississauga because I got a better offer.
Right.
All in the same month, October 2003. Put my down payment on my house, moved in a month, got married at the end of the month, and I started a week after I got married. All in that month. It was crazy time. But Mississauga was one of the only dealers that actually had a union.
Okay.
A unionized shop, and everything was different from everything I had learned.
Yeah.
You had to take a union mandated break at 10 o'clock. There were a specific time when you had to take your lunch. One team went at 11:30 to 12, another team went from 12 to 12:30, and another team went from 12:30 to 1. And you had to stick to that lunchtime.
Yeah.
Your break time at 3 o'clock, you have to stop working. There were a set of rules that I never experienced before.
Yeah, as you go along, things and time changes. Yeah. Different environments. Yeah.
And even with the people who had been in the dealership for years being unionized, you kind of had to go with them. You couldn't be an individual in a unionized shop.
Right.
But you had much better benefits, and it was tough to want to give up those benefits to maybe be a better individual. But totally different experience. It's unionized became, there is a brotherhood of unionized members, and that kind of took precedence over customers because there were so many rules. Every day you'd get a memo on what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
So there was a whole issue with, people coming to try and break up this union that had been there since 1968 before Toyota. So, and there were still staff. The two parts guys had started 1968, 1969, and there were two technicians who had been there since 1970. So they've been there, and before I was born, these guys were working at this dealership, which was, previous dealer.
Yeah, usually parts guys, they don't go anywhere, right? That's what I've noticed when I've worked at different dealerships in the past. You will go there and you'll have at least 2 or 3 guys who actually started with the company, and after 20 years they're still there.
It is hard to get a good parts guy, one who knows exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sometimes you can pull a kid off the street and get stuff done, but a good, knowledgeable parts guy is hard to find. So if they do know what they're doing, they do stay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it's not easy. I mean, parts guy will have if he gets the wrong part, the technician can give him the bad information, or there's a work order with the bad VIN number. The technician chooses out the parts guy.
Yeah.
Or if a customer over the counter gets the wrong part or something's not what they like, that parts guy gets chewed out. So I've seen parts guys get chewed out for a lot of stuff.
For a lot of stuff. That is common, because before all this technology in parts, like the electronic parts catalog, they have manual catalogs. They have to look up the information in the manual catalogs, right? And then they have the bin cards. Then they have to go to the bin cards and look at the information there. And because inventory was done manually as well, because they have to, like, when you sell an item, you have to update that card to ensure that the right quantity is in the location. And then you go around the back and then you have to manually look for these items. So it's been an evolution, so to speak, of where parts is coming from to where it is right now. Everything is computerized.
You know what? It has been a blessing. Toyota has gone through a lot of changes with their parts. The best thing that they have now is, if we don't have it, the dealers are connected to each other, so they can see which dealers have the part, how much quantity. It does save a lot of time of phoning around and, oh, do you have this part? Here's this part number. Oh, I'm on hold. So yes, they are progressing, but it's still a slow
pace. Yeah. Maybe because I wouldn't say that. I would play devil's advocate here. Maybe because we're living in a microwave society. Everybody wants everything instant. Because let's say, for instance, we live in North America, right? Toyota is one of the leading manufacturers now. The way they do things, their logistics is impeccable. But at the same time now, what is happening is that you can get your parts within 3 days, right? You can get your parts within 3 days, whereas other dealerships, other manufacturers, it still take them more than a week to acquire a certain part, right?
It takes actually longer.
Or it takes actually longer. Or there is a system now, even though it takes three days, a maximum of 3 days, and it's overnight for emergency parts. There are certain sections of the world right now, it still takes more than 2 weeks to get a part. So I still think that the North America is just basically spoiled. That's just my humble opinion.
It's in a society where we have to have it now, and waiting 10 minutes is considered a problem.
Exactly. And then you if you go to certain sections of the Caribbean or Africa or anywhere else, the Asia, right? It takes 21 days to 28 days to get a part by air freight.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess I am spoiled. For us, a week, and it's like, oh my God, we got to wait a whole week.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I did 21 days, 28 days to get a part.
Yes. That's what it was like less than 5 years ago. That's basically what it was, right? But with the advancement of logistics, and now you can have a hub in Miami or a hub in New York or somewhere else, it makes it easier to transship across the border. But anyway, that's a whole different story. Please continue, because I'm sure you have far more. You see, the more you talk, it comes over into my special area, and then we can communicate just the same. It only goes to show it only goes to show the wealth of information you have. I love it, man. Continue.